to Throwing Stones. I'm your host, Mark Lesmeister. This video series is about physics and history of catapults. Our study of catapults will be aided by the use of the Thames and Cosmos Catapults and Crossbows kit. We're actually going to start our journey by learning not about catapults, but about bows, and specifically the crossbow.
The use of the bow and arrow goes back many thousands of years. Homer makes frequent mention of archery. No, not this guy. This guy, the ancient Greek poet. In the Odyssey, Homer describes a scene that illustrates an important point about the bow and arrow. Our hero Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, has secretly returned home after an absence of 20 years. While he was away, his devoted wife Penelope has been rebuffing the advances of would-be suitors who have been eating her out of house and home. Penelope announces that she will marry the man who can string Odysseus's war bow and fire an arrow through 12 axe heads. After the suitors try and fail to string it, Odysseus, disguised as a beggar, takes a turn, strings the bow, and fires straight through the 12 axe heads. This ancient story reveals some real truths about the bow and arrow. In the hands of an expert, a bow is a formidable weapon. However, it takes many years to develop the skill to shoot it accurately, and it requires enormous strength, since the string is drawn back with one hand, and once drawn, the string must be maintained in position while the archer aims. That's where the crossbow has the advantage. The crossbow consists of a bow that is mounted horizontally on a stock called a tiller. The string can be drawn back with two hands, often while bracing the weapon against the body or the ground. The string is then held in place by a locking mechanism until released by a trigger. A person can be trained as an arbalist, that is, a person who uses a crossbow, in a matter of weeks. Crossbows are used in many cultures. Chinese crossbow locks dating to 650 BC have been discovered. This Chinese crossbow dates to the 2nd century BCE. This is a modern recreation of an ancient Greek crossbow called the gastrophades. To draw the string, the front end was placed on the ground and the device was braced against the abdomen. We'll talk more about the operation of the crossbow after I build one from the model kit.
So here is the completed crossbow. To fire it, we load the bolt. That's what you call the projectile that gets fired from a crossbow. You push back on the rubber bands right here. And now in a real crossbow, it isn't the string that gets stretched, it's the bow itself that's getting bent back. But this is just a simulation. And then we take careful aim and we fire it.
In the quote I used at the beginning of this episode, the Chinese military philosopher Sun Tzu used the bending of a crossbow as a metaphor to explain his concept of energy.
But in physics, the bending of a bow is literally a form of energy. It's called potential energy. Potential energy is the energy a system has because of the positions of objects within that system. In the case of a crossbow, when the bow is bent, or when the rubber band is stretched back, the positions of the atoms that make up the bow or the rubber band are what store the potential energy. When the trigger is released, the energy can take on a new form, kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy an object or system has because of its motion. There is a rule in physics called the law of conservation of energy. It says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy can be transferred into or out of a system, and within a system, energy can be transformed into different forms, but the total amount of energy in the universe doesn't change. For example, when I load the crossbow, I transfer energy into the crossbow system. That energy comes from the chemical energy my body has because of my steady diet of ramen noodles and Oreos. Next time, we will see how the Greek crossbow evolved into the Roman weapon known as the ballista. In closing, I will just leave you with the words of Sun Tzu. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity.